All right. Hello. Welcome to the Creating Meaningful Work podcast, Martha. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. I was just talking to my team about today, and Erin, who's leading our member experience team, she jumps like out of her chair and she's like, I have been going to every single one of the conferences, even the online one that happened, and I'm so ready for it to come back in person. And she's such a big fan. We're all big fans, but she just was like, I mean, she's your number one fan, even more than we are, I would say. And has a side business, a vintage shop in Central Illinois. And she had the idea at the very first time that she attended in person. So,
oh my gosh. I love hearing those stories. That is so cool. And I think it's Erin W, right? Starts with W?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can like see her face. Yes. Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's so cool to hear those stories because you know that there's so many, and I know this, I'm sure this happens with you. There's so many stories of impact that you'll never get to hear or see.
Yes.
So it's really cool to hear those ones that you're not aware of. So but I am so excited to talk to you because I and my team are Flowdesk fans. Love Flowdesk. My background is in design. And so when Flowdesk came out, I was like, this is beautiful. Thank the Lord for a female founded brand like this, because we were on MailChimp for a really long time. And there was just so many things that didn't work for us at a certain point. So was excited to switch to Flowdesk and haven't looked back. So I'm so excited to hear from you and talk to you. And I'd love to start out with just hearing a little bit about you and your story and what brought you to this place of starting Flowdesk.
Okay, yes. Okay, so you and your story. I feel like there's so many places where I could start. So I'll just start at the beginning. I grew up in Mexico. My father is Arab, my mom's Mexican, and I always had a thing for people and sales. Like when I was and maybe businesses, when I was very young, I think maybe I was like 6. We had rabbits at home, and I'm sure you've heard, but they reproduce very wildly.
I've heard, yes.
We live with a lot of rabbits, and I call my friends from school and I say, hey, we're going to go and sell rabbits. So we go, we don't tell my parents, we just walk around the neighborhood and start offering rabbits to neighbors. And I remember just like coming home with a lot of bills and no rabbits, and my parents just freaked out, and they made us go back and just like revert the sales with the neighborhood, and some people just had to keep the rabbits because their kids were so excited. But I always, I guess, had a thing for business and just bringing value and delight to people in exchange for something else, right? Whether it's like emails or in this case, like money, right? Like a business. So eventually I did get a job in sales, and that's how I started in the technology space. And it was really fun. And then that got me moving to San Francisco, where I met Rebecca, my co-founder, and we just became like business friends, where we would talk about what we're working on and then chat about personal things, but never really sat down and said, hey, let's start a business together. Until we started hearing from a lot of creatives in the space that they were struggling with email marketing, specifically the design portion of things. So I would always send them to Rebecca because she's also a designer by trade, and I figured she could probably resolve the problems. So I would send them to Rebecca, and then Rebecca said, Martha, stop sending me people because I haven't been able to solve this problem. I have a template shop, and even though the design is beautiful, once you go into MailChimp and implement it, it's code-based, so it will still break. And unless you know code, it's really hard to keep it looking beautiful. So then I said, well, why don't you create another MailChimp and offer it to the market? And I remember she said, well, come and join me. Let's make it together. And I was at that time employed at Honeybook. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love Honeybook. I still love Honeybook and everyone that's involved. And I did not want to leave just because I was like, no, I'm happy here. I'm focused on like small business owners and creativity, and I had a lot of freedom. So I said, okay, well, why don't I help you just like get it off the ground, but just in my free time. And then as soon as I started talking to potential customers and learning more about the pains, my heart was like, no, this is it, right? Like we need to build this because why doesn't this exist, right? And to us, it was so obvious, right? We were like, something is broken. The solutions have been around for so many years and they're not working. And for everyone else, it was obvious that it was a mistake. So every single person that we talked to said, do not build yet another email marketing company because I see all of them popping up all the time and they're the same exact thing. And email is dead and all of these things. So anyway, we didn't listen, which is great. And here we are.
Oh, oh my gosh. Wow. That's so interesting to me that people discouraged you from it because like email is dead just feels like so not true because email is where it's at. Email is like the only thing that you actually own. I'm always terrified that our Instagram is going to get hacked tomorrow and then everything's going to go away. It's like email feels like gold. And I'm so glad that you didn't listen and you moved forward. So what were those first steps like? What did you did you go after funding? Did you start creating the product? Like what was kind of those first steps that you took?
Yeah, great question. So we did not go after funding. One thing that we were very aware of, because Rebecca and I were both already in the creative small business space, is that our customers are bootstrapped, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to stay as close as possible to the customers in everything, including the path and the journey, right, to start a business. So we also wanted we were both living in San Francisco, right? So we had seen how dangerous it can be to have investors as shareholders, because sometimes, not for everyone, but for some people, it can be distracting, where truly your customers should be your shareholders, right? Your team members should be your shareholders. So we were pretty clear on not wanting to go the fundraising route. We've since met a lot of potential investors that we really love working with, but then we're cash flow positive, so now it doesn't make sense at all. So I'm very happy that we took this path, and obviously there's always keeping options open. But what we really wanted to do as first steps was make sure that this was a big problem for a big number of people, right? Because we went to a conference very early on in the brainstorming process, and we heard a talk by Dropbox. I think it was one of their product managers, and they said, make sure that whenever you're building something, you're building a painkiller and not a vitamin, right? So if someone has $1 in their pocket and they walk into the pharmacy, the vitamin might look amazing, but if they have a headache, they're going to buy the painkiller, right? So what is it, right, that we want to build? And is it something that's born out of like ego, like I want to be an entrepreneur, let's build something cool, or is it really solving a problem? So our biggest question was, let's find out if there is a problem, if a large enough number of people have a problem, and if we're in a good position to solve that problem. So what that looked like was a lot of potential customer interviews, where we would just ask like, hey, guide me through how you're currently doing email marketing and what's working well and what's not, and then asking why an uncomfortable number of times so we could get to the truth. And we didn't have a target audience, so I just they say you need a hustler and a hacker to build a startup. So I went on Facebook groups and I just shared, hey, we're building a new email marketing company. If anyone has problems with their current solution, please jump on a call with us. And then I sourced like 40 people, just cold outreach, random people, and then we started talking to them. So it was just a lot of hustle. And then through there, we started realizing, okay, yes, this is a big problem. Yes, this needs solving. And then now, can we solve it? Because neither of us had ever built a tech company before. So that was the first step.
Wow, I love that you went straight to the users and talked to them about that. I think people skip that part often because they think they understand or that they think that they know the problem, and you had a sense for it, you had a curiosity that this was there, and then you dove into it more. I also love that the painkiller versus the vitamin. That's good. That's really good.
I do.
Yeah. So I'm so curious. So then you were like, you've never built a tech product before, and you have all this data that you collected from potential users or your target demographic. Then what was the next step? What did it look like next?
So then we realized that because Rebecca's design skills are amazing and we were adding design to the mockups, people were commenting a lot more on like color and font, right? And less on the actual wireframe. So then we said, okay, let's actually remove all design, right? We don't want to create something that is a hit because it's pretty. We can make it pretty. We know we can do that, right? But let's just focus on the wireframe. So we removed all design, we removed all color, we removed all the pretty things, and then we created essentially napkin sketches. And then we had people, like the same people that we had learned from, walk through wireframe, and then just tell us everything that they were thinking about as they were using it. So if you're going to click on that button, right? Like, why did you think that it was a button? What do you think is going to happen when you click on it? Okay, now click. Okay, is that what you thought was going to happen, right? And just learn very well, like, what is it that they want to accomplish and what is it that they intuitively do? Because a lot of times we're not really aware of the answer and we'll say what we think, but it doesn't always tell the truth. And what does tell the truth is the direction of the mouse. So a lot of times it just moved towards like the top corner when we had placed a button on the bottom right corner, we had thought of placing it there. So then we kind of became like spies, right? We were just observing very closely, like, what are people doing? What are they doing that they're not telling us? And then based on that, we refined the wireframes until we felt that it was intuitive enough. And it wasn't all peachy, by the way. Like, we had one of my friends who is a fashion blogger test one of the first wireframes, and I just remember her like sinking in her seat and just like sounding like very nervous, saying, I have no idea what to do and I don't understand what this wireframe is. And she was like, Martha, what do you want me to do? And just being very uncomfortable. And Rebecca was close to tears that day, because she's like, no, we have no idea what we're doing. We'll never solve these, right? Like, and then we just kept going.
Wow. Such intentionality there. Yeah. What do you think was one of the, after you kind of got it going and you, had the product, what is one of the things that you contribute to being the most helpful in getting you to a place of momentum and forward movement?
Yep. I would say there's one piece that is key and has been and continues to be key to our growth, and it is viral loops. So this is not something that we made up. It's the Hotmail model. So if you think about Hotmail, like, grew super fast because someone would come into Hotmail, create an account, send an email, and then their entire like list or recipient list would see, oh, well, this person's using Hotmail, right? So we have that. We have the Made with Love and Flotus footer. And that is so freeing in terms of growth, because what do we need to do? We need to focus on making every new user as successful as possible, as fast as possible, right? And then the rest is kind of there. So instead of focusing on growth campaigns or paying Facebook or paying Google, right? Or even like having a sales team, we just need to focus on building these very right and creating a very fantastic experience for our members.
So did you partner with anyone to do that like Hotmail model at the beginning?
No, it's kind of embedded in the product. So okay, so let's say that you come into flotus.com, right? And you start a trial and then you build your first email and you send it out, you can leave a footer on your email on. So when let's say 5,000 people in a list see the email, if they like what they see, they can create their own trial account and then send emails as well. So it's already built in to the type of product that it is, just by the nature of it being something that you share. So another example of a product with viral loops would be Calendly, right? So you create your Calendly and then you have your page. And then when someone books on your Calendly, they get, I booked on your Calendly. So, at the end, I get a message saying, build your own calendar link, right? And this is, to me, so organic, because somebody else who's a potential user sees the wonderful experience, right, that this company has created, in this case, Calendly, right, or Hotmail or Flowdesk. And then they're already kind of sold at that point. They've seen how it works. They've almost seen like a demo. And if they need it, then you just made it very easy for them to find you.
Yeah, that's makes so much sense. So you all, along those lines, you have a really awesome referral program as well, or affiliate program, I guess. Would it be technically an affiliate?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, because I know I have my link, and so anytime I've sent it out to a ton of people, and it's awesome to get that kickback for yourself, and it's exciting to be able to offer a discount to other people to join. Was that a move that you guys started with, or did that kind of grow? And for those listening who aren't familiar with it, they have a really, and again, it's very clear. It's easy to find in your account. Like, it has a little money with wings emoji on it, which I saw, anyone sees money and with wings, you're like, oh, what's this? Share Flowdesk. And then you can really easily see your own custom link that you can offer people 50% off. And then you get a kickback for yourself if they sign up after their free trial. Am I explaining that correctly? Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And I signed up using someone else's, and I know people have signed up using mine. So it seems like it's working, at least in my experience. So yeah. Did you guys start with that, or how did that come about?
Yes. So we did start with it, and every single decision that we've made has come from our customers. So if you remember at the beginning, I was just like posting on all Facebook groups and asking for people to come and try what we're building. And we started with about 40 people. And then what we noticed was that these 40 people were so excited that they said, oh, can I bring in my friend next time? Or, hey, I have someone that you really need to talk to that's also super struggling with email marketing. So then all of a sudden we're at 80 people, and then we're at 120 people, and then we're at like 400. And we're not looking for more, right? I'm not going on forums and asking for more test users, right? So when we notice that someone's already exhibiting that behavior, then we thought, okay, this is really good for us, right? Because we're getting a lot more eyeballs, we're getting a lot more data, a lot more testers. How can we incentivize these more? And then also, how can we reward the people that are like strangers, but that are falling in love with these so much that they're almost like becoming Team Flowdesk, right? And we started thinking about these like core user base as not our customers, but really like our team. So then we were like, okay, well, what would it look like to bring them closer, almost like as a team? So then we created the affiliate program, and we had it before we even launched to the public. So yes, this was very intentional. It was there since the beginning. It was tested before in terms of like the wings and where to position it, and we definitely wanted to position it after the aha moment, to make sure that someone was feeling great about their experience already before sharing it, and it's working very well. Yes, that's probably been out of the viral loop, that's been the number 2 largest growth channel for us. And we combine them as well, so now you know that if you send an email and someone signs up through your footer, you also get the
Yeah.
And one of the things that, so 2 lessons there. I don't know if you want me to go into it.
Yeah, please.
Okay, awesome. So 2 lessons, huge pieces that we learned that we see a lot of people not implement very well. One, it is an affiliate program, but everyone is part of it. So we realized very early on that it's the small voices that often make the biggest waves. And if we were going to limit it to like an elite group of people who have, I don't know, a large following or a lot of influence, right? Then we would just keep ourselves from really enabling very like passionate people who might not have built huge followings from sharing it with other friends. So we opened it to all of our user base, and the small voices bring in about 76% of our net new wins. So so number one learning is open it to everyone. Like there's really no reason to create obstacles or hurdles for people to share your product if they're using it and loving it, right? And then number two, you are right. A huge motivator for it is, what am I going to get? So that kickback. But an even larger motivator, and you touched on this as well, is how do I add value to my audience? So if I already know that I'm going to be recommending these because it's relevant to my audience, is there any way that I can give them something that they wouldn't get through Flowdesk directly? And this is where the get 50% off your first year promotion comes in, right? Because we want to make sure that we're equipping this team, right? Because we're still seeing this as our team to add value to the audience.
Wow. That's really great. So good. So good. Yeah. And what I hear you really doing well is radically listening to people. I think oftentimes what I see is people getting caught up in, you know, like I guess you touched on it at the beginning, like your own ego, or like, oh, this would be cool. And like, oh, this is exciting for me. And, what I hear you doing is very much not ego driven. It's very much driven by your customers, by the people that you want to serve, and radically listening to them. And I think that's so key and so important, and obviously has been a major contributor to your success. What did it look like from a tech perspective? Did your co-founder know how to code? Because I'm imagining being there and you're like, okay, we need to move this button here, and like, you know, you want to change everything. That takes a lot of tech, obviously. And like, so what did that look like to navigate that side of things?
So once we had we had an agreement that we're not going to code anything until we know that it's the right thing to code. Otherwise, you end up with a program that's already engineered, and then it was, like you said, ego-based, maybe not necessarily like the final one. So once we had a final mock-up / minimum viable product that was very intuitive and people were passing, right, like acing truly, like during that initial experience, then we knew it was time to engineer it. And that is where Trung, our third co-founder and CTO, comes in. So he had experience like being a CTO before, building engineering teams. He's truly the best people manager that I've ever met in my entire career. And we knew that we needed a third co-founder to come in and to actually own the engineering side of things, because it is a tech company after all, right? So so that was great. Rebecca already had a relationship with him from 7 years before, and they had worked together on other projects. So then he came in and we started engineering, I want to say about 5 months before we launched, or before we did our public launch.
Amazing. I have there we go. My little space heaters down here, and it just turned on, and I don't want the noise for the podcast. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. So what has been some major challenges, either for yourself with fears or struggles that have come up for you, or for navigating being a leader, leading this team, working with a co-founder? What have been some of your challenges that have come up through this process?
I mean, there's challenges every day. I will tell you that. We've overcome them, and that's great. But I think a big one was at the beginning. So you have these people, right? Like you're bringing these 3 co-founders together who haven't really built this together before, who are all located in different places. And all of a sudden you have these very high expectations of each other. And one of the kind of like pitfalls that we fell into very early on is that we were always trying to show up perfect. So like, I got this, I'm doing everything right. And then we had these check-ins where we were like, what else should I write that I did last week to show my team that I'm like, I've got this, right? And then the danger is that sometimes we weren't really on top of things because we didn't know how to do like this was a first experience for all of us, right? So instead of coming in and saying, okay, I don't know how to do this and I need help, we were just like showing up perfect. So that cost a lot of things to break at the beginning. And then it was just a matter of getting very real with each other and saying, hey, this is the first time we do this, right? Like there are a lot of things that we don't know. There are a lot of things that are going to bomb, and we have to be okay being wrong. And we have to be okay, like if something breaks, like it broke. We're not going to point fingers at each other, but we are going to do a retrospective where we're going to talk about what went wrong, why did it break, and what we're doing to fix it next time. So having those hard conversations helped a lot. And I think we learned a lot in terms of coming in and bringing our whole selves. Like, let's just get very real with each other and tell each other like what's actually working well, what we've got, and what are the things that maybe are shaky or we need help with. And just make sure that we clarify that, what we stay accountable to what we say we're going to do. And then the other part is the hard conversations. So I had a background in sales, right? So for me, the start of my career was cold calling a lot of people and hearing like, no, I'm not interested, or getting people to hang up on you, or like, why are you calling me again? So I was very comfortable with rejection and like confrontation, right? Where I didn't see it as confrontation. To me, a debate is something that's very exciting because we get to hear other perspectives and then like explore all of these directions and then come back and agree on something. For Trung and Rebecca, it wasn't the case, right? So the hard conversations, the very real conversations sounded very confrontational. I'm also ESL, right? So English as a second language means that sometimes things come across as very blunt, and then we have different communication styles, right? So I'm talking specifically about my own areas of improvement because I think everyone has their own and everyone should share their own. But for me, that was a really big learning, right? So how do I keep in mind that we all are coming from different places, right? That we all communicate differently, but that these conversations need to happen. So a big step was creating frameworks or creating even like space for these conversations to take place, where we knew, right, that we were coming in from the same like team and we were going to leave the conversation on the same team. And however messy it got in the middle, it's okay to let it get messy, right? So it was a lot of, hey, like we might not agree with everything, right? Like it might get messy. We are sitting on the same side of the table and we're going to continue doing this. And in the end of the day, it's not about what I want. It's not about what you want. It's not about what I did and what you did or didn't do. It's about what can we do that is the best thing for the customer, right? Like for our community, for our team members, especially as we started growing the team. And having that very clear alignment, right? And then I think we started both getting very real and being very comfortable with the hard conversations. And then everything changed. Everything just became better in so many ways, right? So that would be, to me, the biggest challenge and something that we continue to encourage the team to do, right? So I think we're living in these like very corporate environment and era where you're not supposed to speak up, you know, as an employee if you disagree with something. You're not supposed to share your salary with other people, or you're not supposed to be like negative, like always be positive. So having to break that idea a little bit and encourage team members to use their voice and say what's really going on. It's like a constant reminder, right? It's something that we constantly have to be talking about. Otherwise people forget and they go back to habit. And that's, I think, very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see female founded companies, I think, really leading the charge in this more communal, like everyone has a voice, we want to hear from you way of doing business. And yeah, I think there's a feminine wave coming to like help balance out this really masculine wave that we've been historically swimming in for a while. And that's what I see you doing, is doing things differently. And I think I I see a lot of female business owners struggle sometimes when they feel like there is a formula to follow. And this is how you run a business. This is how you build a business plan. This is how you do X, Y, Z, and feeling kind of out of alignment with that, but also not quite sure how to do it differently. And what I hear you all doing is you're creating your own framework of how to do this and how to build this, and you're going with what works and what is needed, and bringing your team alongside you and bringing your customers alongside you as your team. And it just sounds like a very communally driven way of doing business versus like top down, like everyone listen to the top person and, you know, everyone else fall in line, which is really encouraging to see.
You nailed it. That's exactly right.
So you, speaking of feminine business owners, you just had a baby 4 months ago, and you're here. You look amazing. I know I have 2 little ones, as I told you before. And it's such a journey. It is such a ride. So I know you're in the beginning thick of it, but how has it been navigating the beginnings of motherhood with running a company?
Yeah, it's amazing. Honestly, I think it's just such a big life-changing experience. And I know it's different for everyone, so I can only speak for my own experience, but it just gave me so much. Well, first of all, that hormonal injection, right, that you can't get away from. So everything was very emotional for a while. And I think that was really fun to see from a business perspective, because it helped me understand that similar to what you were saying about the male and female kind of like playbook, we've been operating on the male playbook of leave your emotions at home and then come into your like business kind of like half. And that just doesn't work, I think. And it's something that I had been starting to get a clue on before even learning that I was pregnant, but especially after the like hormones, I realized like you can't just separate yourself. Like your body is not designed to separate yourself from like who you really are wholly, right? So how can we encourage more of like that entire you to show up to work and still create frameworks for keeping, you know, conversations very professional, right? For being very respectful to others, but not create that type of like split personality that is required, and that typically leads to burnout. So there have been a lot of things that just like overlap really well in terms of just like motherhood. My colleague said that I have a fluke in the system in the best possible way, because my daughter Isabel, so she sleeps through the night. She doesn't cry. She eats like barracuda, like 3 minutes, and is done. My parents live right next door, so my mom can be here all the time. Johnny and I both work from home. So we have we have a lot of privilege in our way to raise our child, and especially these like first few months. So it's been just really fun. It's been really nice. I think a lot of the struggles haven't really been there. I mean, there were struggles. Like I was in labor for 2 days and I had an unplanned C-section, and the recovery was really difficult, right? So, but then pain is only temporary, right? I mean, like the body just recovers and it's fine. And so I talk about the hard things, but mostly it's been really nice and just very enjoyable. And we have this meeting right now, and then after we wrap, I can go and hug my daughter, and just, I don't know, I'm so happy. It feels like nothing was ever missing before, but now that she's around, everything's just so much more rich.
That's beautiful. And I'm so happy to hear that you have that support around you, because I think my parents live down the street from my family as well. And we actually moved to be closer to my family because we knew we wanted to grow our family. And that support has been so instrumental in, and same, my husband, he works from home as well. And like we have flexibility, which is so helpful with kids. So I'm so happy that that is your situation and that she sounds like such a little angel sleeping through the night. Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
It's,
I'm so
it's
happy for
amazing.
you. That's so
Thank you.
good. Um, so where do you see Flowdesk going? Like, what is your vision for this beautiful company that you've built?
You tell me, what would you like to see?
Well, oh gosh. I think as a designer, um, I'm always just so thrilled and happy with your templates, with what you have going. I also really love, again, this goes to the communal approach that you have. I love that you have like Flowdesk University, and you have content for people to also help them. Oh, I have my Flowdesk planner. See, I'm a true fan. I have my Flowdesk planner. Oh wait, I have to get it. It's right here. Just proof that I really have it here. And I love the tips that you have. Like, I'm just opening it up to May 25th. Put your social media profile to work. If you're a photographer, add photographer in your social media name to just increase discoverability. Just like a little tidbit, you know? These little did you meditate today? I did. So thank you also. But I would just say keep going and keep doing what you're doing, listening to your people and serving. And yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big
That's
fan.
it. That's
I
it.
think
That's
too,
all
I
it
was
is.
so unhappy with our previous email subscriber that it felt so refreshing to find you all, because I was really frustrated with it. And we used it for a good chunk of time. So yeah, I'm grateful you didn't listen to the people who said that email is dead. Who said that? But
Yeah,
okay.
long live email. Seriously. It's like,
Email
no,
is
but we
alive
got
and
it.
well.
Yeah. It's like
Do
every
you
year there's an article that's like email is dead. And then like 2 days later, it's like email converts 40 times better. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's noise sometimes. I mean, we have
Yes.
to, but sometimes it's noise. Yeah.
I know. You have to listen with your own intuition and filters and trusting your own voice as well. All right. I have a few rapid fire questions for you before we wrap up our conversation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What is your favorite Instagram or TikTok account? Or
Oh
one
my,
that you like their content? Maybe favorite is a strong word.
okay, I really like the Every Girl. I have no idea who runs it, but I just love, like, at some point I think the sponsored posts started showing up and then I follow them and it's just like fun memes and sometimes
Uh-huh.
you see. Yeah, I would say that's the top one that came to mind.
Yeah, you should connect with them. They're female. I mean, obviously, every girl, you'd hope it's female founder, but
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you would connect. I don't know them, but I feel like you would connect well
Should
with
reach
them.
out, right? We should, yes. Yeah.
You
I
should
mean, they're like
collab
probably pretty
something.
big, but yeah, they're gonna be like, who's that? Yeah. But
I don't know. I just remember they've been around since like the old OG blog days. Like, I used to follow their blog when it was like Design Love Fest, Design Sponge. Do you remember those days? Like every girl. And I just remember their founders were like, I don't know. They seemed approachable. Maybe it's just all branding. I don't know.
yeah,
I feel like they would be
I'll
interested.
do that. And then I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. What is your comfort music? Like the music that you listen to when you just kind of need a little tenderness and comfort?
Yeah, there's two. So there is Mexican music, just because I grew up with it and it's always fun. So if I'm
Uh-huh.
feeling words and singing, then that's going to be my go-to. And then just a little bit of dancing and like shaking off any stress.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also, for no words, a Spotify playlist called Coffee Table Jazz. And the reason why I'm not even like a super big like fan of jazz. I mean, now I guess maybe because of this playlist, but Rebecca and I just started playing it every time that we would co-work on the early version of Flowdesk. So it just became like a thing. Like the brain now just knows like, okay, this is like things are good. I know this. I don't have to think about what I'm listening to. It's kind of like there in the background and it's very soothing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I have that
Lullaby
playlist.
playlist as well. Just
Wait,
because it
say
has
that again?
lullaby playlists because I mean we're sleeping her and you know.
Gotta have a lullaby playlist for
Yeah.
the kiddos. Yeah. Yeah. I have those playlists too that I just it's like I've listened to it so many times when I go into work mode that it's like Pavlov's dog. You just kind of you're like, okay, it's time to work now. I hear the music. Yeah. I even know when it's like been about an hour because of what song comes on. I'm like, okay, it's about an hour now. I love that. Okay, actually not lastly on rapid fire, then I have one more question. Your regular go-to coffee shop order.
Ooh, I don't have one really. Like I like switching it up all the time. And I generally just walk in and I ask what they recommend and then I'll go for that. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. We'll know for next time.
I love that. Keeping it interesting. Okay, and lastly, what bit of thoughts or advice would you give to a woman who is building a business?
Well, okay. I would say the number one thing that's worked for us, and you already talked about it, is talking to the customer. So don't build in isolation. Go and talk to potential people who are going to use it and then learn, right? Don't be afraid to be wrong. That's number one. And then number two, if there can be a bonus, is ask for help. So I think one thing that it's not necessarily only women that do, but we're really good at or I've found, at least in my experience, is that women like to help other women, especially in business. We've almost like created this little mafia where we want to see each other succeed. So if you see somebody else that's doing something that you like or that you're curious about, just reach out and like just like you encouraged me to reach out to the Every Girl founders, right? And then just build a connection and ask for help.
That's so good. Don't create an isolation. Tweet
In all
that.
the ways.
Yes, it's great. Well,
What would
thank
be
you so
yours?
much.
I'm curious about can I ask?
Yeah. Wait, what were you sorry, what did you ask?
What's yours? What's your number one advice?
Oh gosh. I think one step at a time. I see myself and I see a lot of women especially like try to have a whole plan of things that you can't yet predict are going to happen, or just they want to have it all known. And obviously there's a place for planning and having a vision for where you want to head, but at the same time you have to take it one step at a time, because that one step will inform the next, and you have to have grace on yourself for not having it all figured out at once. So yeah, it's something I'm constantly reminding myself when I just want it to all be done and have it, all planned out, and just one step at a time forward movement is important. I think that would be mine.
I love it. I think it's so true. In fact, I would say if you try to have every step planned, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice because you're operating without data that is going to and should inform those next steps. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that with me. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Martha. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. You're such a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. So appreciate your time here. And you all are going to be a part of our conference coming up in October, which I'm so excited about. Yeah, looking forward to having you all part of that as well.
Can't wait. Erin's going, so
yay!
We're really excited.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so cool.
Cardboard.
Great. Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Martha, again. Thank you.
Thank you. This was so fun. Time flew by.
Yeah.